good morning, and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you today. We are still here, Niall?
We are. I'm delighted to be here.
Delighted to be here.
A delightful Wednesday morning.
The sentiment for the day is delight.
Sunshine outside, not too hot. I much prefer this time of year in the nation's capital to the height of summer where I just perspire to an unpleasant degree, frankly.
I prefer the height of summer.
Really?
It gets cold, so you got to turn the heat on in the apartment, which causes a drying effect.
That is true.
Got to break out the humidifier, for our skin, Niall, for we to look bright and sunny and happy and...
You break out the humidifier if you like. As long as we escape the humidity of like July and August in DC, I am happy enough. So I'm happy to be in fall. Coming up on Rising, the Arizona Attorney General is suing Mike Johnson for not swearing in a newly elected Congresswoman, Adelita Grijalva.
Plus, Elon Musk is blasting Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy after Duffy said that SpaceX was behind schedule in going back to the moon.
And police have arrested a pardoned Capitol rioter after he allegedly threatened to kill House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
And now to get to my radar.
That is true, Robbie. Yes, I missed your cue for it, but please do tell us what is on your radar.
Let's get there. All right. Of all the things to get really, really mad at President Donald Trump about, Democrats are going with White House renovations. Yes, the president's decision to add a ballroom to the White House is actually being met with significant fury by liberals and Democrats now that the construction is actually underway. An image of the White House being remodeled, which did necessitate a partial demolition of the East Wing's facade, went viral on X yesterday, prompting a great many meltdowns. Senator Elizabeth Warren wrote on X, "This is Trump's presidency in a single photo. Illegal, destructive, and not helping you." Well-known liberal social media personality Ron Filkowski wrote, "This is a desecration and an abomination." First, he posted an AI video of himself wearing a crown, dumping excrement on the heads of Americans. Then he starts tearing down part of the White House for his Mar-a-Lago-style ballroom. Hillary Clinton got in on the game, writing, "It's not his house, it's your house, and he's destroying it." Hillary's outrage is particularly ironic because, as the journalist Selena Zito pointed out, every president makes changes to the decor and even the structure of the White House, and the Clintons were no different. Yes, it's true that the addition of the ballroom is more significant than anything Bill Clinton did, and it's also true that it has required a bit of demolition, but the part of the White House being demolished is the East Wing's facade, which wasn't even part of the original structure and is being cleared away so that the White House can have a ballroom, which is a perfectly legitimate and some have argued necessary improvement. The president obviously would like to host larger events and currently has no means to do so. If a future president doesn't like the style of the ballroom, well, they can change it. It happens. In fact, let's have a little history lesson. Teddy Roosevelt expanded and renovated the White House in 1902. FDR added a second story and a basement during his presidency in the 1930s. Then from 49 to 52, Harry Truman comprehensively remodeled the White House, dismantling and rebuilding the interior entirely. It's a whole new building. Then the building, because of that renovation, had actually lost much of its architectural flavor at that point. And so when John F. Kennedy came to the presidency, First Lady Jackie Kennedy engaged in an extensive restoration process that made it fit the style of the earlier presidents. Subsequent presidents have refurbished the first family's living quarters. Richard Nixon even added a bowling lane, of all things, in that spirit. Trump is adding to the grandeur of the White House. He's not destroying it, he's making room for larger state dinners, which currently have to sharply limit guests or serve people under tents outdoors. Best of all, private donations are paying for the renovation, not the taxpayers. That seems like a good deal to me. And say what you will about Trump, but one thing the voters seem to like about him is that he values a good deal when it comes to real estate. I'm interested to see what your take is, Niall. I was kind of thrown by this one. The volume of the liberal hysterics and shrieking took me by surprise. It's not bulldozing the White House. They're adding on to it. There's a little bit of knocking something down. It's not very much of the building. what am I missing?
Well, let me first pick up on your historical thread, because I feel obligated to point out that the original architect of the White House was born in Ireland. A man by the name of James Hoban, who was born in Kilkenny, Ireland. So let's give him his props.
Fantastic.
Secondly, I largely agree with you that some of the outrage about this is rather overdone. Because, look, I mean, I'm critical of Trump for lots of reasons. I'll be critical about something else he's done later in this show. But I do think that people like myself who have criticisms need to sort of prioritise what those criticisms are. And a renovation of the White House seems to run pretty low among them. I do take... Like some of the guy who, the kind of digital guy who said it was an abomination, Philip Kowski, like I don't have much time for that. I did think Elizabeth Warren to me was sort of getting at this thing of using the photos of the destruction almost as a kind of metaphor for what the Trump presidency is doing.
Okay.
And that I can accept more easily. It does go to the power of the image. I mean, not to get us down too much of a tangent, but I think back to, do you remember the photo of George W. Bush as president flying over New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina? And he was looking out the window. Now, I think his response to Katrina was way lacking, but there was this criticism of the photo that he was looking sort of impassive or whatever. It's like, what's he supposed to do? He's supposed to be like crying and, you know, rending his garments or something. Like, the photo was the photo, but it came to encapsulate a broader lack of care or response to Hurricane Katrina.
Those kinds of projections that people do are always so
suspect.
Silly.
No, I think that it is, that stuff is tricky.
And I would not defend every single renovation. Like the Truman one was not good because now they had to do it because the building had no longer become functional. It had basically been tweaked so many different times that the entire structure was unsound. So they had to rebuild it from the inside. But when they did that, it was no longer sort of in keeping with the Greco-Roman or French influences of the founder's vision. And so then Jackie Kennedy did this very famous and very successful remodeling, refurbishing to have it more in the style of what Jefferson and Madison would have intended, that's a good thing.
Right.
I'm for that. Obviously, I'm for the fact that Truman had to remodel it because it was going to collapse.
Sure.
If Trump, installed like
a glowing neon Trump sign above the top.
Cannon kind of Back to the Future Part 2 changes to it, I would be against them. But this is really mostly just adding on to the structure.
Right. And I have to say, having been in the East Room of the White House quite a few times, it is relatively small for the biggest room in the White House. You know, for those kind of events, it's pretty cramped. So I don't really object to the purpose so long as it's executed with some measure of taste.
It doesn't look like it does on our screen.
No, it doesn't.
These buildings are all next to each other.
Exactly.
The White House does not lead into, what was that, the Lincoln? The White House and the Lincoln and the
Capitol and the Supreme Court and all that.
Got the actual thing on camera. That's how it looks.
Much nicer. I'm not sure about that flagpole, but it's fine.
Oh yeah, you can see the crane. Yeah. I'm just amazed that they're proceeding so swiftly with this. Construction seems to take forever in any other context.
I guess
you can waive whatever zoning.
I guess it's
in your way.
High priority job, I would imagine.
They have a neighbor saying, filing complaints.
Not in my backyard.
With the district saying, this will cast a shadow on my lawn. My rights are being violated. I must thwart this at all times.
Rob in the Treasury Department of Daylight.
Yeah, I've told you that was a really formative experience for me in Ann Arbor as a college student at the University of Michigan, seeing these, the most liberal, one of the most liberal towns in America, these super liberal but affluent, mostly white people who live in the city of Ann Arbor, fighting with the most not conservative ideologically, but just conservative by disposition, fighting every single new building and a single attempt to add height, to add more housing for the students.
There'll be none of that.
Right.
Preserve the original style.
Yes.
That's how it goes.
All right, coming up, the Attorney General of Arizona is suing House Speaker Mike Johnson. We'll be right back with the details on that.